This video is brought to you by the Farmer Klein YouTube channel. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Farming Simulator 22 Map First Impressions video. Today we're going to take a look at Italian Rice 22. But before that, this video is brought to you by Dragon Age and Jarrett Green Hut. Thank you for being farm barons. So the Italian Rice 22 map can be found over at the farmingsimulator.com website or the in-game downloadable content menu. And as of the 1.0 release, this map is available for all platforms. Let me read you some of the description. This map reproduces the rice growing areas of the Rice Triangle. This is the countryside between 4 Italian cities with their typical farmhouses and landscapes. This map includes 1 main farm to start your career, 4 more independent farms for more realistic multiplayer experience, 87 floodable fields, 4 different rice variants with real textures, 2 different corn variants in grain and maize silage, 1 fully customizable area with a cow husbandry, 1 full customizable area with a BGA. We also have selling point for rice crops as well as selling point for other crops, flour mill, quarry, 5 forestry areas, and an animal dealer. Now this map lists as being compatible with the precision farming mod, but I will tell you that the soil map is the generic soil map that is a part of the precision farming mod. Now, in addition to the mods, we typically would take a look at maps, which are additional field info, additional game settings, animal food overview, field lease, field calculator, and precision farming. This map has 5 required mods. Those 5 required mods are the air compressor, cow husbandry, modular BGA, New Holland T6 Tier 4B, and the trailed loader. I also will tell you that if you load this map up in a farm manager mode or start from scratch, you will find the main farm is built out exactly how you're going to see it here in new farmer mode, with one interesting exception. Oddly enough, in the alternate game modes, none of the buildings or farm areas have gates. It's kind of an interesting thing. In fact, when we load here in new farmer mode, you can see that our farm does indeed have doors. On sheds, it does indeed have gates. But in farm manager mode, it is missing. So the gates, the doors from all of these buildings here at the starting farm are missing in those alternate game modes. And in fact, if you go into build mode and try to delete various buildings here, you're not going to be successful. But what you can do, for $0, you can sell the doors and gates. So I don't know if maybe the map author just has a thing about doors and gates and knows that some people just like to leave them open all the time. So he's maybe giving you the option of just getting rid of them entirely. Let's go ahead and take a look at the PDA itself. Now, one of the first things you're going to notice is that this is not a square map. At one point in time, I thought, well, maybe this is slightly longer north to south than a standard size map. Maybe this could be the first non 2x2 square kilometer map available on console. That is not the case. So this map is slightly narrower to the east and west than a standard map, and it is just shy of a standard map in height north to south. So this is just a little bit smaller than a standard map. This map does include all the standard crops available to us in Farm Sim 22. In addition, we have 4 rice crops. And then we have forage maize as new crops available on the map. If we take a look at our farmland lease screen, if we take a look at our lands screen, you'll see we start out with farmland ID 33. That is the main starting farm for $85,848. In addition to the main starting farm, we have a farm here to the northeast. That is farmland ID 34. That can be bought for $100,000. We also have farmland ID 35 to the southwest, which is buyable for $83,000. Then we have 2 farmlands that are right beside each other in farmland 36 and 37. They can be bought for $104,000 and $83,856 respectively. In addition, we have a cow pasture area here, farmland ID 3. Buy that for $89,000, and a BGA, which is located here at farmland ID 30, which is buyable for $173,000. Let's go ahead and take a look at our farmland lease screen. This is going to show us all of the viable farmlands, how large those farmlands are, if those farmlands include any field, what fields are included, then lastly, how much is that farmland going to cost us. You see, we're making a pretty good deal here in new farmer mode because farmland ID 1, which contains several fields we own, it's going to cost you nearly $800,000 to buy in any alternate game mode. You see that we have several farmlands here that include multiple fields, and all of them are all fairly expensive. Taking a look at our field calculator screen, this is going to show us the specific sizes of each particular field. Then we can always go back and cross-reference that with the farmland lease screen to see which field is tied to what particular farmland, then have a general idea what it's going to cost to buy any one particular field. Overall, these fields are fairly small, between 1 hectare or less, but there are a few that are hovering up between 2, 3, and 4 hectares. Again, I mentioned that the precision farming soil map is going to be the generic soil map that is a part of the precision farming mod. Let's go ahead and see how that is getting applied to these fields. We can see that farmland ID 1, which is the fields that we own at the start, has swaths of silty clay loam and sandy loam stretching through it. We also have large sections of silty clay down to the south, as well as strips of that to the north. We do have the standard base game crop counter available for our base game crops. We also have forage maize and the 4 rices, which have been added here. If we take a look down at our prices screen, you will see that we do not have the ability to sell all of the base game crops. While this is an Italian centric map, oddly enough, I would have thought grapes and olives would have been a part of that, but sadly that is not the case. So if you do want to do grapes or olives on this particular map, then you will need to put down a sell point that is going to work with those. In addition, we do not have the ability to sell cotton on this map. And grapes, olives, and cotton are all part of the map because we have all the standard crops available for planting and harvest, both from the crop calendar as well as from the listing of crops from the PDA menu itself. In addition, we do not have the ability to sell our eggs, wool, or milk, which is rather interesting because we do have a cow pasture pre-placed over at farmland ID 3. We do have the ability to sell our silage, hay, straw, and grass, but the story does continue to get a little depressing with respect to production. While this map does include a grain mill that does produce flour, we do not have the ability to sell said flour unless we go and put down our own sell point. And that trend continues down through all of the base game production items. We do not have the ability to sell a single one of those things on this map without, again, putting down your own particular sell point. In addition to that, we do not have the ability to buy bulk lime, nor do we have the ability to sell any stones. So if you are, once again, playing with stones enabled, you will need to put down your own stone crusher or some other way of getting rid of your stones. We do have sell points for the new rice crops, as well as the ability to sell rice windrow. No, sorry. We do not have the ability to sell rice windrow. It is clearly a thing, but there are no sell points associated with it. And we have forage maize, which clearly seems to be indicated that you're not going to be growing that for sale. You're going to be growing that in order to be making silage with it. And the trend continues down through our platinum expansion production items. We do not have the ability to sell any of those either. So if you do want to maybe do some of that with one of those 5 forestry areas, you will need to put down, once again, your own sell point. We do have the ability to work with the premium expansion production and crops. With respect to potato chips, our preserved root crops, as well as our soups, and our red beets, carrots, and parsnips. Now, I do want to give you a little bit of a correction. In some previous recent map videos, I mentioned that these premium expansions are basically keying off the grain crops. That, I believe, is not quite the accurate information. I believe these are keying off potatoes and sugar beets instead. So if you have a map that is going to have sugar beet or potato sell point, then it's likely going to accept your preserves, your soups, as well as your new root crop vegetables. We do have quite an extensive list of starting equipment. It is all new, none of it is leased, and it is all well maintained. We do have the one cow husbandry. We do not have any cows in that husbandry at the start. We do have contracts available, and we also own the grain mill at the start. You'll see the grain mill has been set up to accept wheat, barley, oats, sorghum, which is normal. In addition to that, we can make corn flour. We have the 4 rice flours as well. But again, we do not have the ability to sell flour without putting down our own sell point. This map also does not have any collectibles. Let's go ahead and take a look at our starting fleet. We start out with the John Deere T6 175. That is from the New Holland T6 Tier 4B mod that is listed as a required mod. In addition, we have the Maxim CVX 145 from Case IH and the John Deere 6120M. So we've got all three. We got red, blue, and green all represented here. As far as the medium tractors go, we have the John Deere 6230R, Kloss Axion 850, and the John Deere 7810. We have a New Holland CH7.70 harvester that is paired up the New Holland Superflex 25-foot grain header. And do note that the grain header is going to work with the 4 new rice crops. We also have the 8-row Diamant corn header. We have our Manitou MLT 840 telehandler. We have our 1986 pickup truck. We have a pair of Flegel TMK 273 trailers. And once again, they have been configured with the new crops that are available on this particular map. We have the pair of EcoMat plows. We have the Semgard 9500K cultivator. We have the BTC 500H disc harrow. We have a pair of Kuhn HR 6040 RCS power harrows. We have the HR 6040 RCS and BTFR 6030 power harrow seeder combination, and the TF 1512 seeder hopper. The Lemkin Azurt 9 planter and the Solitar 23 fertilize spreader, or fertilizer hopper, I should say. We have a Dalbo Power Roll 1230 HD roller. We have the Navigator 4000 Delta Force herbicide and liquid fertilizer sprayer. We have the Amazon ZATS 3200 fertilize spreader. For a telehandler, we have the Universal Bucket and Pallet Fork. We have the DTS 5.9 low loader. We also have for our grain header, the N20T Nardi header trailer. We have a 3,300 kilogram weight. We have a 2,300 kilogram weight, 18, 15, 1150, 900, 750, and 650 kilogram front weight. So quite the collection of front weights which in our starting equipment. We also have the trailed loader, which is a mod that is listed as a required mod, and the manure fork for the trailed loader. Now we take a look at our mods and DLCs page. You will see that the map does not have any vehicles or implements, but we do have 2 required mods that are showing up here in the trailed loader, as well as the New Holland T6 4B. Let's go ahead and take a look at our starting farm here. So once again, we do have operable doors and gates. And these are interesting kind of folding gates on these buildings. And if you wanted to, you could go into build mode. You could select demolish and delete out these doors, like I said. But the buildings themselves are not deletable. See? There goes the door. But again, the building itself is going to remain. So I found that rather interesting, how that is all been set up. Typically, right, you have the ability to either delete the buildings or you don't have the ability to delete the buildings. But on this particular map, with these particular buildings, well, we just have the ability to get rid of the doors on these said buildings. Now you're going to find on the map, silos are going to be listed as farm dryers. And each particular farm is going to have a farm dryer associated with it. I am going to believe that these are just typical farm silos. So we have our dump point. And for this particular building, we're going to have our fill point outside here. I've also seen some buildings where you have a fill point out this side, and then some that are going to be on the inside. We have a water trigger here at our farm. A wash station. We do have a maintenance trigger inside of here. Although we do not have clear indicators as to where the trigger is located. Let's go take a look. And that appears to be within the entirety of this shed. And that is pretty much the starting farm. Let's go ahead and get a little bit of altitude here. We are currently facing west, and this is going to be the viable cow area. Now, even though we do not own this land at this juncture, you do see that we do have the triggers popping up, but we can go ahead and buy this if we wanted to for $89,000. So we have our buy trigger here for our cows, 200 cows in total. We have our milk trigger. We have a food trough running down either side, food and straw. We have our slurry point. Then we have our manure heap right here. Here we have the trailed loader that we do have the ability to make use of. So this is going to be requiring a tractor and PTO connection. This doesn't have an engine of its own. The cow pasture does have 2 silage bunkers also located here. Then we have some storage sheds. Now, scattered around the map, you're going to find some of these icons. And these icons are going to be representing the ability to flood or not flood your fields. But if we pull up the F1 menu, you're going to see nothing's coming up here. That's because there's something we have to do before we can enable these triggers. And I will show you that in town when we get to that portion of the video. In addition, you will find that there are some high power lines, power towers, I like to call them, running through your fields. These do not have collisions. As you saw, we just walked right through those. Now I'm going to quickly come over here because this is our flour mill. Again, I mentioned we do not have the ability to sell flour, but we do have a flour mill located on the map right here, right beside our starting farm. We have our dump point located right here. We have our interactive icon located right there. Let me back out of here because that is rather loud. What we don't have is a place for our pallets to spawn. At least not here. When I was doing some testing before recording, I discovered that the pallets of flour actually spawn over here under this building. So this is the spawn point for your flour pallets. While the markers are there, given the physical separation of the spawn point and the actual dump point and interactive point, I don't know how well this design is going to work. I think there's going to be a lot of players that are maybe trying to do flour on this map and might get frustrated that they can't figure out where in the heck their pallets are spawning. Well, they're going to be right here. Right next to the animal dealer, actually. So So there we have our dealer trigger. Let's go ahead and loop up to the northeast where we have one of the optional player farms. I did go ahead and buy all of the farms in my pre-video recording testing, and I found that indeed on all the farms, the trend continues. We can get rid of the gates, we can get rid of the doors, but the buildings themselves, they are going to remain. Now here we have a nice little cool feature. We've got a tractor running this access road, and he is actually off the edge of the map. So I like when we have a little bit of activity on the map, and here we have a little bit of activity just off the edge. In fact, if we come this way, we're going to be coming real close to the edge of the map itself. In fact, these trees are right along the edge. And when I first saw that tractor driving, it was actually driving over here, because what you're looking at over here is off the map boundary. Okay, we just come over in this direction. We're going to run right up against the map boundary. Then we had the tractor kind of driving over there. That was pretty neat to have seen. Here we have the modular BGA. And the modular BGA consists of a standard BGA and some elements of the modular BGA mod that is listed as a requirement. Let me go ahead and buy this particular area, and let me show you what we have down here now in our productions. So we have the regular BGA. I'm going to take our silage, slurry, manure, and sugar beet cut and make digestate. Pretty standard. But then we also have 3 fermenters. We have 2 fermenter 300s, and then we have a fermenter 200. Now, this is where I don't think these are set up correctly, because you see that these are going to accept fermenter silage, fermenter slurry, fermenter manure, and fermenter sugar beet cut. But we don't have anything here that is making these particular inputs. And I really don't think that we're going to be taking silage, slurry, manure, and sugar beet cut from the normal BGA here and suddenly having it show up as fermenter, silage, slurry, manure, and sugar beet cut. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I don't think that's how the modular BGA mod is going to work. Then we're going to be taking our raw methane, fermentation residue, and storable fermentation residue. And we have 2 generators that are pre-placed that are going to take that raw methane and make energy out of it. But again, I don't think that this is set up correctly because, well, if we go to our build mode and production, we of course have the modular BGA items listed here. And those are going to require bunkers in order to take our raw inputs and make the fermenter inputs that then the fermenters themselves are going to require. So I think this map is missing these bunkers that you're going to have to place on your own down here. And then only after you do that are you going to be able to basically put goods in here to have them move in production to these and then move to these 2 locations. Now what you can do is you can sell the BGA and all the items of the modular BGA, and then at that point you can build out your own BGA however you want, either by putting a standard biogas plant down, by building out your own modular BGA with the modular BGA pack, or maybe by building something out with pumps and hoses. Now we can sell these 2 sheds down at the biogas plant. These are the only sheds that I've been able to sell. And then I found that these solar panels are also sellable if you do own, again, the BGA itself. You can also sell our silage. So you can pretty much sell everything down here other than some of these deco buildings and the traffic. I was saying traffic. I was seeing the cars, but then I saw the train, and I said traffic for whatever reason. That's a pretty cool custom train. So there we have the BGA area. This is going to be our rice sell point. Now remember I mentioned that we can't flood our fields until we do something else first. Well, that is down here in town. So in town you're going to find a ginormous icon that looks just like the other icons with flooding your fields. So if we come up to this, you're going to see up in the F1 menu, water canal level up to allow field rice irrigation. So you need to click if it says that. And now we have raised the water levels up in all the irrigation canals. If you're going to have, if it says water level raised, when you click that, you're basically lowering the water level back down. Okay, so let's just quickly come over here, find a canal. And right here, you can see there's no water in here. This is dry. Now let's go over here and hit this trigger. And we'll come back. And now we have water in here. You don't see a lot of water in here, but there is water in here. And then at this point, we can find one of these flooding icons, and we can then flood the fields because the trigger is now going to work. We'll find one of those icons here in a little bit. Now to the south, we have pretty much exclusively fields and these two farm areas side by side. I kind of like to call these areas his and her farms. Which one is which? Well, I'll let you decide which is his and which is hers. But yeah, we have one main farm entrance here. Then we have another farm entrance up there. And then we have kind of this farm area is one. And this area down here is another. And then the fourth and final viable farm is located right here. So here we have a trigger. And now if we come up here, we see we have a button. Fill rice fields with water. Right? These triggers didn't work until we activated the thing in town. So we click that. We get a little bit of animation down here. So floodgates lift up. And we should see over here, it's fairly subtle. Like, we don't see like a huge water plane showing up here. But what we do see is this change in the gray. See how we have kind of lines here? And it's kind of a darker color. All right, now let me go back and change. The same thing going on here. Let me go back and hit this trigger. And then run back over here. And you see it's normal. Right? It's now normal looking. Let me go hit it again. There. We were fast enough. We could see it pop in. So that is basically flooding the fields. Right? It's very subtle. It's not like some of the other maps that have had rice before. Here we have our grain sell point. We have our quarry over here. It is just decorative as best as I can tell. Because again, we do not have the ability to buy bulk lime. There isn't anything heaped up here at all. We have our fuel point located right there. We have our vehicle dealer, which we're going to come back to. And then we have a bale sell point located right here. And this is kind of just down the street from the trigger that activates or deactivates the flooding of the canals, which then will activate or deactivate one's ability to flood the fields. So here at our vehicle dealer, you're going to find we have some equipment parked up here. And when we come up to it, it says it's rented by us. This is not machinery we can use. This is the best as I can tell, deco machinery. We can't tab into it. It's unusable. But for whatever reason, however it's coded, it seems to be coded in such a way where the game is thinking that it is rented by us. Let's go ahead and odd wardrobe trigger. I thought that was our vehicle shop trigger. Here we have that around the side. Let's go ahead and get our Mahindra. We'll see where our vehicles spawn in at. So we got a pretty decent sized area for our vehicles to spawn. And then with respect to getting out, we have a gate here. Then we have our main gate. So I would say probably medium-sized machinery. Nothing you want, it's probably more than 6 meters wide. You may find yourself having some problems with respect to traffic in getting around town with anything too much wider than that. Those doors do not open, and I did not see really an indicator as to that is a maintenance trigger, but here we have a box. That doesn't appear to do anything. So it seems to be a maintenance trigger here, or should be a maintenance trigger here, but the little icon, which appears to be supposed to be in this general vicinity, is not showing up. Now, we really haven't talked about our scoring system. So let's go and jump into our Mahindra. I don't really think we need to drive around and hit all of the various points because I feel like we've already hit those points. There really aren't too many hot spots on this map. There's a grain sell point. There's a rice sell point. We have an animal dealer. We have production, which we already talked about, and we have a bale sell point. Then we have our 4 farms and the cow area. So as I do a rundown of our production, or not our production, but of our score, which does include production, we'll just drive around the map a little bit. With respect to production being built in or areas set aside for such, we're going to give the map a full point because we do have the grain mill. Even though we can't sell the flour, it's there. We can put our own sell point down. Maybe sell everything. Maybe that might be a useful mod for this particular map. We also have then the 3 fermenters, a normal BGA, and the 2 generators. Now, I'm not really sure because I don't use the modular BGA mod much if that is going to work with the regular BGA or not, or if you're going to really need to put down your own digester in order to do anything with those fermenters and generators. with respect to the ability to sell all of our base game crops, production items, and animal sell points. Or animal outputs. We're going to be giving the map just 1/4 of a point because we cannot sell grapes, olives, cotton, eggs, wool, or milk, nor any of the base game productions. So that is a fair amount of things that we just cannot do, even though we can grow grapes, olives, and cotton. We have a cow area already pre-placed on the map. So at least we should be able to do those because they're already pre-placed. With respect to can the farms be customizable, we're giving the map 1/4 of a point. While we cannot sell any of the buildings, we can, oddly enough and interestingly enough, sell gates and doors on the various buildings. With respect to buildings where appropriately are using the new texturing technique. Most of the buildings at the 4 placeable farms are not using that new technique. Then a smattering of buildings scattered around the map are kind of using a mixture of the new texturing technique and without. So we are going to be giving the map 1/2 a point there. Then our last scoring metric is trigger and player interactive areas being clearly marked. We've already talked about the flour mill and the fact that while we do have an indicator showing where the flour pallets are spawning, they are removed far enough from the interactive icon and the dump points that I think it's not going to be typically easy for players to understand, intuitive to understand where those pallets are spawning. In addition, we do have some interesting questionable triggers down at the vehicle shop, as well as other areas on the map. So we are going to be giving the map just 3/4 of a point there. I think the map could do a little bit better with respect to kind of clearly indicating what is going on with the production and with the dealer and a few other areas. So that's going to be giving this map a score of 2.75 out of 5. The map score could increase drastically if we had the ability to sell all of our base game crops, animal outputs, and base game production items. That would bump this thing up to a 3.5, I believe, if my math is correct. The ability to sell the buildings at the farm would be nice, indeed. Let me know your all's thoughts down in the comments below with respect to Italian Rice 22. If you are looking to grow rice on a map, well, this seems to be right up your alley, because that seems to be what this map has been specifically designed for. And until next time, happy farming.